Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a trip, a really long trip, roughly 66 million years back in time. We're going to bear witness to the exact day our planet came closer to absolute total destruction than at almost any other moment in its history. We're unpacking an unimaginably powerful event that didn't just violently end an entire era, but literally paved the way for you, me, and our modern world to exist. So let's reconstruct the greatest catastrophe in our planet's history.
Just imagine waking up on a perfectly normal day, 66 million years ago. You look up and the sky is this brilliant, clear blue. The oceans are incredibly calm. If you take a walk through the lush landscape, it's just covered in beautiful flowering plants. Life is absolutely thriving everywhere you look. Dinosaurs are ruling every single continent. You've got these massive creatures, literally the size of city buses, just lumbering peacefully through the forests. Meanwhile, smaller, incredibly fast hunters are darting through the underbrush. Look up and there are massive flying reptiles filling the skies. Out in the deep water, giant marine reptiles completely dominate. It's a vibrant, completely peaceful Earth. And if you stood there taking it all in, absolutely nothing would give you a clue that the absolute greatest catastrophe in millions of years was only hours away.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because abruptly, the peacefulness of that prehistoric morning is just totally shattered. A single object appears in the sky. And I'm not talking about a plane, and it certainly isn't a comet that you can just safely watch drift by from a distance. Far beyond Earth's atmosphere, this massive object had already started its final journey. It had been drifting completely silently through the freezing vacuum of space for millions upon millions of years. But now, gravity has locked it onto a direct, completely unavoidable collision course with us. There was no stopping it. And honestly, no one even knew it was coming.
To really grasp the sheer terror of this threat, we have to look at the numbers. This asteroid was traveling at over 43,000 miles per hour. Try to wrap your mind around the physics of that kind of speed. As it hit Earth's atmosphere, it compressed the air in front of it so violently that the sheer friction generated temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun itself. It was basically a blazing, unstoppable fireball streaking across the sky.
But it wasn't just impossibly fast. The actual physical scale of this thing was terrifying. It was nearly 10 kilometers, or 6 miles wide. Think about that. That is an entire mountain of solid rock hurtling toward the ground. For a few terrifying moments, as this 6-mile-wide behemoth pushed through the atmosphere, the entire horizon would have glowed brighter than daylight. The sheer intensity of the light would have been totally blinding just before impact.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happened next. In a horrific split second, literally everything changed. The thriving forests and giant reptiles of that vibrant world we just visualized were instantly replaced by burning skies and melted rock. The asteroid slammed into what we now know as Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Entire forests burst into flames almost instantly. The transition from a thriving, beautiful ecosystem to an unimaginable, burning hellscape happened in the literal blink of an eye.
The moment it hit, the explosion released energy equivalent to billions of nuclear bombs. Let that sink in for a second. Billions. The ground where it hit literally vaporized. Solid rock melted away like butter. Within minutes, this impact gouged out a massive crater nearly 180 kilometers, that's 110 miles wide. Anything and anyone within thousands of miles had zero chance of survival. But the really terrifying truth? This direct hit was just the opening act of the nightmare.
The speed at which this global apocalypse unfolded was staggering. Minutes after impact, earthquakes stronger than anything we've ever recorded sent massive shockwaves rippling around the entire planet. Coastlines were completely decimated by gigantic tsunamis. We're talking waves towering hundreds of feet high, taller than modern skyscrapers. Then, within hours, the molten rock that had been blasted up into space started coming back down. These glowing fragments rained through the atmosphere like billions of fiery meteors. The sky literally turned into a furnace, sparking massive wildfires across the globe. And within days, thick smoke swallowed entire continents as ash and dust shot high into the upper atmosphere.
Because of all that ash, smoke, and dust suspended way up high, the Earth fundamentally transformed. Sunlight just couldn't penetrate it anymore. The short-term fiery chaos gave way to this prolonged, freezing nuclear winter. The planet entered total darkness. And this wasn't just a really long, dark night. This was a brutal shift in the planet's climate that would test the endurance of absolutely every living thing that had somehow made it through the blast and the fires.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because it triggered a complete ecological collapse, taking down the global food chain just like a line of dominoes.
First, with the sunlight blocked, the primary energy source for the world was just gone. Second, without that light for photosynthesis, the plants rapidly started to die off. Third, without the vegetation, the massive plant-eating dinosaurs, these huge herbivores that needed immense amounts of daily calories just to survive, they starved to death. And finally, without their prey, the giant apex predators followed suit. Food chains completely collapsed one by one as global temperatures plummeted.
And you know, this devastation wasn't just contained to the land. The ocean suffered tremendously. Acid rain likely poured from the skies, poisoning rivers and lakes. Down in the oceans, tiny plankton, which were the very photosynthetic foundation of marine life, just vanished. And when the base of the marine food chain collapses, everything above it falls right along with it. Ancient species that had survived and thrived for millions of years were simply gone forever in those dark, freezing waters.
So the crucial point is, the ultimate toll of this disaster was absolutely staggering, roughly 75%. Within a relatively short geological window, around 3/4 of all Earth species were completely extinguished. It stands as one of the greatest mass extinctions in our planet's entire history. Let me repeat that, 75% of everything alive was wiped from the face of the Earth.
Seeing that devastating 75% mortality rate naturally leads us to a pretty massive question. But how did anything survive? If the sky was literally raining fire, the ground was shaking apart, huge tsunamis were wiping out coasts, and the sun was blocked out for years, how did life not just completely disappear? Who were the resilient few that actually managed to hide from the apocalypse?
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between the doomed and the survivors. The massive creatures that needed huge amounts of food and stable environments, like giant marine reptiles, the massive plant-eating dinosaurs, and huge flying reptiles. They simply couldn't adapt quickly enough to a freezing, starving world. But the small mammals? They survived by hiding out safely underground, totally insulated from the intense surface heat and the freezing cold that followed. Some birds made it because their smaller size and unique beaks meant they needed less food and could crack open seeds buried deep in the ash. Crocodiles, turtles, insects, and a bunch of deep-sea creatures managed to endure it too. Basically, biological adaptability and keeping a low profile were the ultimate keys to survival.
And that brings us to the ultimate twist of this whole explainer. Those small, adaptable survivors, they became the foundation of our modern world. Over millions of years following that impact, those surviving mammals evolved into countless new species. And eventually, one of those branches evolved into us, humans. In an incredible twist of fate, if that 6-mile-wide asteroid had drifted just a fraction of a degree and missed Earth entirely, dinosaurs might still be ruling the planet today, and humans might literally never have existed. The very asteroid that nearly ended life on Earth is the exact reason we're here.
Our planet has definitely faced unimaginable disasters before, but the fact that you're sitting here today means that life found a way. Every forest that grows today, every bustling city we've built, every single human being alive, we all exist because life managed to survive the darkest chapter in Earth's history. Perhaps the greatest lesson here isn't just how close Earth came to ending, but how incredibly, stubbornly resilient life truly is when faced with total annihilation.
Well, it definitely leaves us with a lot to think about, doesn't it? The next time you look up at the night sky, admiring the stars and the quiet calm of space, just remember that history has a strange way of repeating itself. It really makes you wonder. Somewhere out there in that endless darkness is the next great visitor already traveling toward us. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep your eyes on the skies.